for all verified facts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome. WhatsApp, which is now used by over hundreds of millions of people, maybe close to 500 million people in India, is changing its terms of service. It's updated its privacy policy, and that will kick into effect from the 8th of February. Now, this update talks about sharing with its parent company, Facebook, and also suggests that it would be sharing data and your usage statistics, which you perhaps did not know about or is likely to be detrimental to you. Now, this has caused a lot of concern amongst WhatsApp users. Many have already talked about migrating and are indeed migrating to other platforms as well. So the objective behind this discussion and conversation today is to understand what is WhatsApp really wanting to do. To what extent has it been doing it already, which is collecting your data, and which part of that is harmful to you, and what should you be doing for yourself? And the larger question, what should we be looking at or doing from a policy point of view, which is specific to a country like India, and could there be an override? So that's really the 3 or 4 questions we're asking. My guests are Rahul Sasi, founder of CloudSec. CloudSec is an AI technology company that fights digital threats, and Nikhil Pava, founder of Media Nama, the technology publication. Thank you both for joining me. So, Rahul, let me ask you first. So, to explain to us, what does this new update policy mean?
What WhatsApp is trying to do is they never had access to. First of all, what Facebook is a media company. You know, the 90% of their revenue comes from advertisements. And WhatsApp is an acquisition. They acquired WhatsApp. They never built it in the first place. In the last couple of years, Facebook has been funding WhatsApp and its projects, and they never was making money out of WhatsApp. Now, what are they trying to do right now is they're trying to make WhatsApp into an advertising machine as well, right? And how do they do that? Well, the fundamental way all these advertising companies make money is to show their users more relevant ads, right? And it's very simple, right? You might be browsing for a pizza, and Facebook wants to show you a pizza advertisement so that the pizza company can make money, right? Similarly, their objective is, can we now leverage WhatsApp data? Some of the data, it might not be chat, by the way. As of now, they say it's not chat, but some of the other metadata, which can be used to show you more relevant ads. In order to do that, right, and make WhatsApp an advertising, build revenue out of advertising, is what they have implemented this new privacy system. So that's
right. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the fundamental thing. So now what this means is, till now, users didn't have to share. Now they're very specifically going to the users and saying, well, we would require your permission because of all those GDPR and all those things, your permission to show you ads. So, and if you are okay, well, you can stay on the platform. If you're not okay, well, you may feel free to leave the platform.
Right.
So in my perspective, well, showing ads, well, it's fine. I mean, that's their business model, but giving people the only option whether to stay or leave is kind of a hard one, by the way.
Okay, and we'll come to that later. So WhatsApp or Facebook clarified saying that this only affects business users. What does that mean?
No. So, I mean, it affects all users actually, right? All users on the platform. I don't think it specifically affects. I mean, the prompt is for all the users, not specifically for a particular set.
Right, and at this point, obviously, we are not seeing advertisements. So this is in some ways preparing the ground to start serving advertisements.
Yes. Again, the advertisement might not be happening on WhatsApp. It will happen on Facebook, but but they would try to leverage some sort of data from WhatsApp to show you those advertisements. And again, it can be on WhatsApp as well, but we don't know about that clearly at this point of time.
Okay. Thanks for that. Nikhil, so how are you interpreting this move so far, including the clarification that WhatsApp has given at this point of time?
So, Govind, a bunch of things to explain over here. Firstly, there are only parts of this privacy policy update which are new. In 2016, after a couple of years after WhatsApp had been acquired by Facebook, Facebook had then updated its privacy policy to enable data sharing with Facebook. Now, there are two types of data sets which are generated or which are on your WhatsApp when you use it. One is the metadata, which is basically your information in terms of who you're interacting it with, which mobile number is interacting with with which mobile number, when, how many times were you perhaps online, maybe your profile picture, maybe information about your address book, what your status updates are. So that kind of information is metadata. What is being exchanged between you and me when we are chatting is encrypted data. It's covered by end-to-end encryption. I know many users are looking to shift to Signal as an alternative to the WhatsApp as an app. WhatsApp uses the same protocol that Signal does, and so the chats that we exchange are protected, and that's not being used for in any way impacting advertising. I also don't think that it's likely that we will see ads on WhatsApp. But some of this information related to interactions and especially interactions with businesses might be used to inform advertising on WhatsApp's portfolio of apps which do not use end-to-end encryption. So it could inform advertising on Instagram or on Facebook. And so, there are, Facebook is trying to leverage WhatsApp in whatever ways
Right.
it is possible, because it can't leverage the chat information as such. When
Right.
it
Okay.
comes to the business information, Govind, if I may just answer a
Go ahead.
question that you'd asked Rahul, there are specific businesses which use WhatsApp. So I always have seen WhatsApp as a replacement for telecom. So first it replaced messaging, then it replaced calling, and now and then it had something called transactional message and transactional information. So, for example, if you booked a ticket on Book My Show, it would send you details of your ticket via a WhatsApp message. So many of these transactions that we do, we get information from businesses that we're interacting with on WhatsApp itself. So those are business messages, and WhatsApp. What WhatsApp is saying is that now that information may be shared with Facebook by the business if that business is using WhatsApp for hosting. So if that business is using Facebook's self-hosted services. So they're just saying that that information will probably not be used by Facebook for advertising or for interaction with other businesses. But just because they're hosted on Facebook, you should know that the information is going to be shared with Facebook as a service provider to that business. So and that is basically meant to help Facebook get a picture of just ensuring delivery of service for its business customers. So I think the business part there's a little too much being made about it.
Right.
But okay, so I can answer other questions also, Govind.
Yeah, right. So let me come back on that very quickly. So Make My Trip sends me a WhatsApp saying that here is a copy of the ticket you've booked from Mumbai to Delhi, and here is the PNR and so on. Now that information you're saying could go to Facebook with my name and everything else?
As a service provider, Govind. So if Facebook is providing a service, like for example, Google can say that if you're using Google Apps or Google Pro in that sense, their own hosting service to run your business, then it's good. Then the information is going to also be shared with them in their capacity as a service provider, not in their capacity as an advertiser or etc. etc. So Google so that's the basic difference.
Right. Okay. So anyway, you've also answered the question that I didn't ask right in the beginning, which is that is our conversations, are our private conversations, including within groups, safe? The answer is yes, because of this end-to-end encryption, which means that all the data is either sitting on my mobile phone or yours, but not on any servers that are owned by WhatsApp. So to that extent, our videos, our chats, our messages are safe as we know it. However, the data behind that, which is my phone number or my location, could find its way to Facebook. Am I correct, Nikhil?
Yes.
Right.
But the thing is, Govind, Facebook was already getting that information. So in that sense, there is nothing new. What we are seeing right now in terms of the panic reaction that's happening is largely Facebook throwing shade on WhatsApp. See, WhatsApp is a platform that people have trusted for many years. Facebook is probably amongst the least trusted companies when it comes to privacy globally, right? So this is the effect of for WhatsApp of the company it keeps or rather the company that owns it, that people are reacting to WhatsApp even though our chats are not compromised and much of our personal information that goes into those chats is not compromised. People are still reacting to that. If it wasn't Facebook, and that's the question that I'm asking myself, if the data was not being shared with Facebook, but with, let's say, Google or with, let's say, Twitter, would the reaction be the same? Remember, Twitter direct messages are not encrypted. They're not end-to-end encrypted, right? Your
Same,
emails are not end-to-end encrypted
same
on
goes
Gmail.
same goes to Instagram chats and a bunch of other things. The only
Absolutely.
message, yeah, the only messages which are encrypted are in WhatsApp and Signal, etc., etc. That's what I said. Well, see, I think there's an over like panicky situation right now, because
Right.
they are not getting more than what they already had. They already have it. Well, they're just trying to
Right.
leverage, and they're trying to be transparent and build a business on top of it.
Right. Yeah, and we'll come to that in a moment. And Rahul, so to pick up on that, there are two things now. So one is the information that I communicate or generate, which lies either on my phone or yours, and the other is the
Yeah.
information that is intrinsic to me, my location, my phone number, my behavior. Now, which of this, in a way, is more dangerous, or is it that this is worth more and therefore could also do me more harm down the line? When I say this, I mean the data that is intrinsic to me.
No, I mean, see, first of all, remember the example which Nikhil mentioned about Make My Trip sharing the data with Facebook. You asked for the question of business and Make My Trip share. Well, you have to understand Facebook by default already has access to all this data. If you go, there's a service Facebook itself has given to every user where you can go to that particular page. It will list you all the third-party apps which are tracking you outside Facebook and sharing data to Facebook. Okay, so for example, Swiggy is one of them. Swiggy shares all multiple activities with Facebook. One of the mobile applications which you use to edit photographs, they share a bunch of information with Facebook. These would be activities. These are not like whether you have. These are like, well, you did an activity, you added something to cart, and some cases what you added to cart. Some rare cases. Some cases is just the set of activities you took on that particular portal, right? So it's not all these places. People are not sharing who you are, but your activities. But in the end, yes, Facebook as a company knows who this is, obviously, from different partners, and they can aggregate and build on top of this data, which is how it works. So the question is which one is more dangerous? The data sitting on my phone leaving. Well, as of now, your data sitting on your phone is never leaving. But any metadata which was on different people's servers, they have always been leaving those servers.
Right.
Not just
Right.
now.
Yeah. So data versus metadata. So metadata. So you're saying that metadata was always in the hands of the big tech companies and tech giants. So therefore,
Yeah.
there's nothing that can be more damaging than what it is already today.
Yeah, and I would like to read out the URL of that page, which will let you see all the apps which is sharing data to Facebook. Let me see if I can carry on. I'll try to see if I can read it out.
Right.
For the
Okay.
users.
Great. So Nikhil, now these kind of regulations or these kind of product policies and updates are interpreted differently in different countries. So and may each country or some countries may even bear upon or bear down on a Facebook or a WhatsApp to change it a little bit. Could that happen here, or will this be uniform across the world?
Well, it's not uniform across the world very clearly. In Europe, this data sharing is not happening because in 2016 itself, European regulators put a stop to it. I don't quite recall what they did, but I know that the data is not being shared with Facebook in Europe. In our case, this case had gone to the CCI, and the CCI approved that particular acquisition of WhatsApp. And I don't know what's come out of any challenge involved, whether there was a challenge regarding the data sharing in India. So it's not that there isn't a regulatory option available. This data sharing can be stopped, especially given the scale. But we also have to bear in mind that an understanding of data, as in terms of how it impacts competition and the network effects that it creates, and how it is effectively, it has an economic impact, is only just improving, in the sense, uh, these we weren't having these conversations in 2009, 2010, 2011, and network effects are only being understood now, and there's a pushback that's taking place in multiple jurisdictions about those network effects. See, if you think about it, both with Facebook and with Google, they're kind of like Hotel California, right? You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. You move from Facebook to WhatsApp. You move from what if you leave Facebook, you're on WhatsApp and Instagram. If you leave one, you're on the other. And similar things happen with Google's family of apps also. That scale then creates a problem. One, it creates a privacy problem because of the amount of data and profiling that happens across those platforms. So if WhatsApp is sharing data with Facebook and that is informing advertising and other practices on both Instagram and Facebook, that is clearly a competitive advantage and a privacy concern because of all the sources that they're
Right.
collecting data
But
from.
a quick question
Similar
there.
problem with Google.
Right. So, quick question there, Nikhil. So, I suppose I am on WhatsApp, but I'm not on Facebook or Instagram. How does it
Right.
affect my life?
Well, in some instances, Facebook is through third-party data brokers is tracking you across the internet, even if you don't have an account. I remember there were instances where non-users were also being tracked.
Right.
And similarly, in case of Google with advertising, you may not have a Google account, but if you're exposed to Google advertising, they're still profiling you by dropping a cookie on your device.
Right.
So data collection, data tracking is happening at multiple levels globally. There is a global market failure in privacy and data protection, and we need regulation to address it.
Right. Okay. And we'll come to that in a second. So, Rahul, have you found the URL that you were going to share?
Yeah, well, I think users can just search, on Google itself to view all the apps which are sharing data with Facebook, and the first link that comes will have a list of apps. That's the easiest way to find it.
So, I mean, before we wind up, so two questions. First is to you, Rahul. So, what is it that I can do, or what should I? Is there something else I should know about what this new ecosystem means? If it's particularly if it's something that should concern me. Secondly, if I want to protect myself for whatever reason in any better way, what should I be doing?
Yeah. So one of the interesting things Apple recently launched is the ability for individual users, and very specifically for mobile apps actually, for individual users to say, well, don't let this app track me outside this app. Okay. They've launched that functionality, and that's where Facebook has been having concerns with Apple and this new functionality. So this gives control to users who has an Apple device and say, well, this app should only be tracking me inside the app, not outside. Okay. So I see more of these functionalities being rolled out by Apple, because Apple is not an advertising company. And I see it not happening with Android, because Android's parent company, Google, their revenue is still coming, 70-80% comes from advertising, right? So this is one option which people have at this point of time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay. And Nikhil, what should we be looking at, if at all, to address this from a policy point of view, if only to make users, and there are hundreds of millions, as we said, in this country, more secure about their usage?
So before I get into that, Govind, I just wanted to add that the three platforms that are being considered by users are WhatsApp, Signal, and Telegram. And most of the switch is happening from WhatsApp to either Telegram or Signal. Signal is the best of these platforms. You can prevent people from taking screenshots of your messages. You can you can put disappearing messages so that your message gets cleared after a period of time that you can set. And it doesn't. And Signal also does not collect metadata on you. So, Signal is the safest platform to use. I'd strongly recommend it. In case of Telegram, its regular chats are less secure than that of WhatsApp. So if I had to choose between Telegram and WhatsApp, I would choose WhatsApp. That aside, from a privacy perspective, I think there are things in Android also which are very useful. So you can still, go to your settings for each app and change the privacy policy. You can change what data is being tracked about you by that app. You can also select whether apps can only track, for example, your location when that app is in use and not all the time. So those are changes. From a policy perspective, I think India needs a data protection bill, and we needed it yesterday. The sooner we get it, the better. And I do think we need competition regulation to address this, the scale at which data collection is being done by a consortium of apps or services that are owned by a single large company. So that scale is of data that is being collected about us is a big problem. Number three, I think we need to do something about data brokers and who collect, buy and sell data to multiple platforms about us, and which are effectively our data is being shared by them even without us giving our consent to that data being shared. So a bunch of these things need to be addressed.
Right, and that's very useful, Nikhil, because knowing about it, the fact that my data is getting shared, whether I'm using that app or not. Secondly, that a broker or a data broker could be actually picking it up and selling it to someone else is in itself a good starting point for many people. Rahul, very quickly, Signal, Telegram, and WhatsApp, what are you going to stick to?
Oh, see, I mean, in my perspective, right, like I explained, right, whatever is happening has been happening for long. I don't see it as a new phenomenon. In my perspective, I personally believe people will always stick to application which has higher or elevated user experience. WhatsApp has that elevated user experience. So, and you will only use an app where your friends are, right? And these are messaging. You don't. If you can't reach your friend, there's no point in having in the app in the first place, right? So I think a portion of people will migrate to Signal, but I still see WhatsApp dominating the market primarily because of the elevated user experience which they have provided and continue providing.
And so they have transactions as well, which we've not discussed. But anyway, nevertheless, that's a different discussion which we'll come to. Nikhil, did you want to say something?
No, unless you have a question.
No, okay. Right, we've run out of time. Thank you both for joining me and taking us through what this new policy update means and how it could affect you and what you should be potentially doing about it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Govind.
Thank you.